Hi guys. Um, I want to talk about today uh, the different areas of knowledge and different emphases and different approaches they take. And I want to think about that in terms of what I want to study. A bit of my background. I'm currently a teacher. Before that, I worked for the church. Before that, I was an engineer. So in my life, I've done a lot of different study. I've studied maths and science. I've studied theology and biblical studies. I've studied education, a little bit of psychology and that here and there. So, and during my studies, I found that you can study different things in different ways, or you can study the same thing from different approaches from different areas of knowledge. And that's kind of what I wanted to emphasize today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at a topic, a random topic, or a topic that I've chosen, and I'm going to see how I can approach it from different areas of knowledge, what different aspects I could study within those different areas. And I want to do that so that I can talk about the different emphases that the different areas have, the different approaches they have, and then some distinctive ideas. Okay, this will hopefully give you ideas about if you're going to do research, how you could approach different things, but also just give you a good general idea of what the different areas of knowledge are and the different approaches they take. Uh, According to the IB, they have 8 different areas of knowledge. In a document I read from AP Research, they have 6 different areas. It doesn't really matter. The same ideas apply, and we're going to have a look at that now. All right. Here we go. Here's the first example. This will hopefully make sense as I go through it. So I teach mathematics, and a few years ago I had some guys who needed to do a mathematical investigation, and they wanted to do it on Celtic knots, or one of them wanted to do it on Celtic knots. And so we discussed this. We talked about we can investigate the length versus the radius. We investigate the thickness of the knot versus the inside area here. And we talk about 2D versus 3D. We can talk about an algorithm to produce that knot and whether you can do it by, and there's a couple of different algorithms you could do it by. In the end, he didn't do this investigation. He did something on Monopoly. But anyway, if you wanted to explore Celtic knots, you could do it through the lens of mathematics. But also, you could do it through history. Okay, these are Celtic knots, so England and Scotland, but similar knots have been found in Egypt and Babylon and Ethiopia and all sorts of different places. There's similarities with the Star of David. You can talk about all sorts of different stuff from a historical perspective. With the human sciences, we talk about geography and is there a difference between the Irish and the Scottish? And there actually is. I read a little bit about that. From anthropology, you can talk about what relevance does it have to their culture. Okay. If you talk about the arts, you could talk about black and white, like I've got here, versus color. Talk about symbolism. What do they mean? You can talk about how to create them. Is there a difference between 2D and 3D in how to create them and in their symbolism? If you want to explore the religious knowledge system, this particular knot here is sometimes used to represent the Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. It's also sometimes used to represent the anthropological Trinity, mind, body, and soul. Okay, so you could discuss that and explore that. So one topic could be explored in different areas in different ways. Now, if I was going to explore in mathematics, I'd have to base my study on the axioms and the rules of mathematics. And it's really deductive logic. It's like, these are specific rules that always works. How do I apply it to Celtic knots? If I was studying history, I'd have to look at primary and secondary sources. I'd use a little bit of deductive logic, but a lot of inductive logic based on observation and making a theory based on a lot of observations. If we're talking about the human sciences, I have to look at case studies, again using a lot of inductive logic. And really, I couldn't really explain what they are, but I can understand more about them. This idea of explaining versus understanding is a really interesting discussion we could get into at another time. If you're looking at the arts, you could think about the idea of influences, right? So, and you could talk about symbolism. And if we're studying religious knowledge systems, we've got to fit everything within a religious framework or a ritual tradition. Okay? So these are the different approaches you take within those areas. Let's do another example, and hopefully this will become clearer and clearer as we go along. In my classroom, there's a hamster, filthy vermin. Now, I want to study keeping a hamster as a pet, so I could study that mathematically. I could optimize the design of the cage. Probably not very interesting, but I could do that. I could do it in terms of science, which is much more interesting. Talk about habitat versus ecosystem versus cage. Talk about nutrition, what they eat in the wild versus what they do here. These are desert animals, but we keep them on grass here. So what's the interesting discussion about habitat ecosystem? The arts, we could design a creative habitat. Human sciences, we could talk about psychology. From a psychology point of view, you could discuss the benefits of or research the benefits of owning a pet. From ethical point of view, you could research, is it morally acceptable to keep a wild animal prisoner? I don't really like the hamster. Okay, so if you're studying mathematics, it's the area of geometry, and you've got to conform to fundamental rules. If you're studying natural sciences, you've got to experiment, observe, form a hypothesis, and your experiment has to falsify that hypothesis. I mean, you can't really prove yourself right, you've got to prove yourself not wrong. That's something interesting conversation to have at another time, falsification. In the arts, you can talk about the media, as in not the news media, but as in what mediums do you use to create a cage? What articles, what forms? Form versus function, big idea in the arts. Human sciences, again, we're looking at case studies, okay, because we can't really do experiments. We're going to talk about what people actually feel. And really, we can understand how people feel, can't really explain how people feel. In ethics, you got to get an ethical framework like utilitarianism and see how this fits within that framework, or you've got to give a relative value of human life versus animal life. Okay, that's two examples. I'm going to really quickly do two more. I'll let you pause the video and you can think about what you would say. We're going to study auto-tune. Okay, what areas of knowledge could we use? Okay, I'll tell you what I've come up with. We could look at mathematics, looking at the algorithm for auto-tune. We could look at the history of auto-tune. We could look at what does it mean to be an artist, or what does it mean to be a virtuoso. If you use auto-tune, are you the artist, or is the guy who programmed you the artist? Look at psychology. Why do performers use it? Why does the audience like it? Okay, and again, if we're doing mathematics, we look at the idea of models, history, collect evidence, analyze. It's the idea of situating the art within a social context. Human sciences, we can understand auto-tune, maybe we can't explain it. Okay, here's another example. Prescribing ADD medication. Okay, what could we study there? Okay, here's some stuff I came up with. Ethics, history. It seems to be happening a lot more. Is that more diagnoses or more occurrences? Natural sciences, talk about the chemistry or biology. You can talk about human sciences, talk about diagnosis, and talk about management. Okay, and again, doing these things, ethics, you fit it within a framework. History, you search for patterns and evidence. Natural sciences, you experiment, observe, hypothesize. Human sciences, you look at case studies and try and get an understanding. Okay, so basically that's it. You can approach the same topic, in summary is you can approach the same topic through different areas of knowledge. Within those different areas, you would take different approaches. Here's some of the really important ideas that I've highlighted, but there's many more, and you'd have to go a lot deeper into this to think about it. But I think best advice when you're wanting to study something or research something is get a good idea of what framework, what context, what paradigm you're sitting within, and explore it from there. They'll help you narrow down and focus your research topic. And then just in general, be aware that there's different areas of knowledge and they have different approaches to the idea of studying, explaining, understanding. Okay, hope that's helpful. Good luck with your study.